welcome back to the channel. My name's Adrian and this is Sunday the 16th of November and it is my weekly channel update. This is the video where I sit and talk about the games that have arrived, the games that I've played, but more importantly I'll have a conversation topic. Actually, if it's the 16th, that means it's the 23rd next week, which is my birthday. So I don't know whether I'll have a channel update next Sunday. It's whether... Let's see how sober I am. And because, well, you know, it's the day before your birthday when you go out. But hopefully I'll have one next week, but we shall see where that goes. So, yeah, I haven't really got any channel news other than the fact that my two projects, one is definitely hit funding goal as of time of recording. So for Dark Space, my first actual paid professional, in inverted commas, stuff has been authorized. So the stretch goals hit. We're going to see that creature. It's been drawn by the amazingly talented Jeff Whitty, and he keeps sending me images backwards and forwards. So I'm really looking forward to seeing how that finally lands. And then beyond me on that pledge, you know, who's that? Bob World Builder is still to come. And once the next chapter opens, I said this in my Dark Space video, there is some amazing stretch goals coming for that, so that's really good to see. And I'm closing in on my first actual story, which is quite interesting to see. And again, I'll link for that project in the video description as well. So I did actually do a video on that Kickstarter as well. So yeah, all coming along really. I'm waiting for a contract for a two-parter as well for another writing. Again, this is going to be for Shadowdark, and I'll announce that when the contracts are done, or I can, if that makes sense. As I did with all these videos, let's just start with, I haven't even explained the topic of conversation. I am, because I've seen a few people do this, and and it's quite interesting to see different people's opinions and views. So I'm going to be doing my 10 reasons why you should be playing Shadowdark. Now, I'm sure if you're watching this video, there's a good chance you're already liking Shadowdark, because I do talk about it a fair amount on this channel, but I've also got 4 things that I dislike about it, and that isn't designed for clickbait or any of that. I love what Chaos has put together, but I have got 4 things that I don't really like also. So if you want to get straight to that, everything is chapter linked in these videos, so you can just jump about, you know, and watch it in whatever order you want. So let's just get into games played. So I played the wonderful Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay on Monday, and sadly this is the last part. I actually didn't do anything. My character didn't do anything for the whole 3 hours because I was asleep. Rob didn't turn up, so I played Rob's character. Well, I said Rob couldn't make it because he had issues at work, so he had to stay late at work. So I ended up playing his fighting character that he has, it's Panther Knight. So I got to do a few things until I killed him. Well, I didn't kill him. The dice roll killed him. Luckily, Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay has the fate system, so I spent a fate die. And he's still alive. But could you imagine allowing someone else to play your character and them just getting your character killed? But that just happened. So it's quite hilarious for all of us playing. I did text Rob an image why he was having his issues at work, so I probably helped with his already stressful evening. And then Friday night, we played Clever Cool Crazy, which is a brand new system that isn't available yet. It's still in testing. Glenn ran it, and we did it live over on Dungeons and Dyslexia Tabletop's Tales channel. And it was a very interesting system. It's D6 dice pool system with exploding dice, so that ticks some boxes. And you basically have a series of sort of nouns and verbs for your character. And they score from 1 to 7, and depending on which one you use will be your starting dice pool. And then you sort of use your different ones to add different dice pools if you can. So, for example, I was a strong dwarven priest. So if I was using something with strength, I could use my dwarven stuff, which I had 7 dice in. And if I sort of prayed to gods and things like that to try and help me do stuff, you get the extra dice for the priest. If I'm doing priestly stuff, because I had 5 in that, I only start with a dice pool of 5, if that makes sense, if I couldn't put my dwarven strength into it. And, you know, and I was like, I had a hobby of taxidermy, and my priest ended up with a taxidermy otter we called Jeremy. And I was using it like a holy symbol. So, yeah, it was a really actually interesting mechanic that played there. So go and watch that. Say, if you haven't subscribed to my other channel, go and subscribe to that one as well. And go and watch that on there. So what came in this week? We had 9 arrive this week. And we're going to start off with Multi-Dark, which is the definitive guide to multi-classing in Shadowdark. So, one, if you're from a 5e or even a D&D background, a few people like the idea of multi classing their characters. So this is going to allow you to do this. It's a 24-page zine in here. So it's by Dean Lucius of Angry Engine Games. He kindly did send this over to me. And what it allows you to do is every odd level, instead of sticking with your normal class, it's going to give you the rules for whether you want to go on a fighter, priest, thief, wizard. They all sound familiar. Then it's also got all of the new classes from the Cursed Scrolls. So we've got the Knights, Warlocks, Witch, Desert, Pit Fighter, Sea Wolf, variety of other stuff. And what this does is then it just explains what happens when you multi-class. So let's just pick on the Basilisk Warrior here. So when you take a level in this, so you've gone up to, you're going through to 3rd level, and you want to switch from Fighter into the Basilisk class here. So you're going to choose a weapon proficiency from the list that's in that Cursed Scrolls, and you're going to get 1 armor slot. You're going to use a D8 for your hit points this round, regardless of what you should have had. Your Basilisk Blood is going to work the same. So, because with some of these abilities, you'll either get them or you won't. Okay, and I've probably picked one that you're going to get all of them. So yeah, they're all going to work exactly the same, apart from the resistance goes to 12 from the Petrifying Gaze. The Stone Skin is still going to be the same. The Basilisk Warrior Talents is here, and then you're going to roll on the Basilisk Warrior Talent table. Right, I need to find one where it says you don't do them typically. Here we go. The Multiclass Fighter. So the Hauler, you don't gain this ability. So this is. So you will either gain some of them or not. And then you will always roll on the specific talent for the new class. And you say you can, just allows you to freely go up every 3rd level with whichever class you want to sort of move into. So that's quite a cool idea. And I do like the fact, and I don't know how he's done this, but we've got the Rastabout and the Kazan Archer from Cursed Scrolls 6. So whether he has got some, and the Duelist, whether he's got some sort of... I don't know. He must have some sort of teaser in there from Kelsey. I don't know. We'll see. We've then got, from Valhalla Games, this was sent to me, the Tome of Magic, 106 page here. It's been sent to me by Ralph Wall, who's the wonderful writer of Atomic Shadows, which is a wonderful campaign setting, post-apocalyptic campaign setting that I do big up an awful lot on this channel. And this is going to give you, as you'd imagine, with the Tome of Magic, you're going to get a load more magic spells. You're going to get some new classes here. So we've got a Bardic Trickster with some Bardic Trickster spells, a Druid with some Druid spells, a Necromancer with Necromancy spells, some additional Priest Wizard spells. We've got some Places of Power, sort of Wizard Tower, and then a load of new magical items and things like that. So, for example, Necromancer, it's going to work how all the classes are. You're going to get some abilities, the weapons and armor that you're going to get. This is D4 hit points, couple of languages here. Then obviously you're going to be able to heal the dead, which is Necromancy, as it is. Your spells and things like that you're going to get in there. And you can ask an advisor an additional question per day on... So here we go. Spiritual advisor. Once per day, you can call upon a ghostly spirit that can answer a single yes or no question. I hate those abilities as a games master, but it's not bad. It's only once per day. And the fact it's yes and no does make it a little bit more accessible, I think, as a games master, because some of these can really sort of break games. But say it's once per day and it's yes or no, so the players are really going to have to think about how they use that. But say you've got a lot of necromantic spells in here. Do you want to go and give you an idea of these places of power? Let's just pick a Wizard's Tower, for example. So yeah, it's going to have layouts and maps and things. We've got Wizard's Tower, Priest Temple, Necromancer's Lair stuff. There are loads of magic items and stuff. This is more than likely going to end up with a full review of this. Then got Blood in the Water, which is an adventure that I've played half of. So Fenris77, we ran this, well, he ran this live, again on my Dungeons and Dyslexia Tabletop Tales, and we got halfway through. We're going to come back and do the second half. I think it's booked in for January. So I just need to not fully review this, because we are in the village of Clearwater investigating things that are going on. And yes, some of this feels familiar, but we are in, I think we just got attacked where we were. We just got to the end of the first day, and then we got attacked and okay, almost died. Shadowdark does that. It tends to sort of bring you right to the cusp of a TPK, and then you sort of get through it and you manage to survive somehow, which is why I think one of the reasons we like Shadowdark. I'll come on to that very soon. I've then got Gristle Vine, Abandon Hope, and what we've got, Escaping. Is that Bangunin? I don't know how that's pronounced. Right, and these are all from Nick Campbell, who has kindly sent these across to me. And these are a variety of beautiful looking adventures in here. So he's got several of them up on Drive Through RPG already, and this is an 18-page. This is the first one here, so Gristle Vine. So you're going to all the maps and stuff. But what I really like about these, so I haven't reread through the adventures, but I've had a sort of flick through, is he does the stats box nice and clear. I like this. You know, we're just straight in there. The attributes are nice and clear. We've got the attacks are all separated out. I'm not knocking the way Kelsey does it, but because it functions. But this is just a little bit of a nicer layout. You know, you can clearly see the attacks, clearly see sort of hit points, because, you know, I think the Shadowdark standard stat blocks, it's just can be a little bit. Take my time sometimes to actually find what's more important in there. And this is like a little small place. There isn't really a lot going on. Was it? I think it's 8 or 9 rooms in total. 8 rooms, that's it, and then we've got all the monsters at the back. But Abandon Hope is the big one. So this is 80 pages, and I was sort of flicking through this, and I say the artwork and the maps. I love the color and the style of it, because it's just a beautiful, different way of doing stuff. But when we look at the monster stats, I want to find the examples I was looking at earlier. So we've got a second map here, and let's just, where are we? Here we go. So, for example, here. So we've got the bestiary at the back. It then tells you in the largest part which page, and hyperlinks it back to the page. So here we go. So the Blind Ronin here is on page 46. So I'll click on page 46, and he's in here. He's one of the Drow bounty hunters. So he's in that section of the book. And when you are looking, it doesn't link me back the other way. But when you're actually clicking through and going through stuff, so here you go, the Scorpion Shrub here. So that took me to 26. Here he is. So he's in here. So you've got it actually embedded in the adventure as well as at the back. It's just, I like it. It's a very good way of doing it. And this is, say, it's 80 pages. This is a pretty big adventure with lots and lots of cool little creatures and monsters and stuff. And all of them are, I should have said, is all for sort of very early. It says sort of starting level adventures. So you think level 1, maybe level 2. I'm sure I noticed one of them was a gauntlet. Ah, we go. Yeah, the last one. Escaping Bangunin, maybe, is a gauntlet. I'm still to do a gauntlet for Shadowdark. And I wonder whether I run this, because it's nice and quick. Got 10 different rooms. I should probably stop showing it, because people on my channel may want to sign up for a gauntlet, because I need to run a gauntlet, and I think that's a good idea for a one-shot. Yeah, let's run this one and stick the players through there. So again, these are all available on Drive Through RPG. I've then got Interface 2, because, you know, I know a lot of people, Cyberpunk Red, it's one of those Marmite games. I'm slowly getting everything else I can for it, because I love the world. I love supporting our Talsorian games. It's a really good world. The rulebook is, you know, I covered it on my channel, and it's all right. But these are, over the year, they release free content that's available on PDF, and at the end of the year, they put it all into one book that you can then go and buy. So weirdly enough, I do have these all on PDF. Anyway, but I'm still buying. So the reason I'm pointing it's because it's over my shoulder. Is I am buying these because I like to be able to sort of just sit around the house and just go and read these as opposed to reading off my PDF. So the next one is Oblivion, which is based on the computer game Oblivion for Elder Scrolls, and this is written by Taylor Seeley Wright. So I did pick this up. I've got the physical copy. It's 117 pages. My friend Kieran at Fox Off RPG reviewed this a while back, and I was like, I've got to pick that up the next time I do my physical order from Drive-Thru RPG. So it has arrived now, and it's it's not hyperlinked. Yeah. Oh, that is. Some of it's hyperlinked, some of it isn't. But Oblivion was one of those. Other than all the bugs when you're closing down all the gates, which could be really annoying. You could spend several hours on the computer game closing the bugs down. But I'm reading through this, getting very fond memories and excited on the thought of playing Oblivion and going through the magical gates. There is a section on the gates. We've got some of the gate masters here. Where is it? Where's the gates? It's got a random. One day I'll write down page numbers before we go. Here we go. We've got a gate generator and what the gate special effect is going to be and things like that. So yeah, and stuff you're going to need to do to close down the gates. That's really exciting. I love computer game adaptations because if you've played a long time, it sits in your head really, really nice, and it's nice and easy. But this looks really good. Really, really good. I'm going to keep saying really good. But, okay, last one. Bugged the shit out of me when I found out this. So, Last Vikings is something that I've been looking at on Drive-Thru RPG. And I was like, I love my Vikings. But all of the reviews on it were glowing reviews. But the public domain, we use AI art. Only the public domain works of deceased classic artists were created or derived by the AI art in this book. You don't need to use AI art. There are plenty of free places and stuff to get AI art. And I know this really splits the community and stuff, and I've always sworn I wouldn't cover anything with AI art. And it's annoying because the content of this book is really good. And I know I just said that about Oblivion. This is a good Viking source book, and it's for Baptism of Fire, which is a game I don't even own. So I bought sort of because it said it's OSR. You can play OSR games, which you can. And they say this is a really good source book, and some of the art looks really good. The problem with me, because I'm not an artist, and I'm sure people like Jeff Whitty will watch this and go, "That's AI," and they can clearly see it. I think this looks nice. But there will be certain bits, I'm sure, that an artist will go, that's blatantly AI, because some of these are cheesy sort of grins and stuff. There's something I noticed here is this arrow doesn't kind of seem to fit from a perspective point of view in where the bow is, but I don't know. But the layout is nice. I like all the runes. The contents of this book is good. I just wish people would take public domain stuff and just use that, or pay a little bit. There's lots of cheaper places to get it. So I personally think there's no excuse for using AI art. And by all means, debate me in the comments down below. I don't mean like that. Certain people like AI art, other people don't. And I can see it from both sides. But it does worry me, especially because Muggins here can't tell the difference, which is worrying. But saying that, I'm like that with videos on YouTube now. It's, the kids will show me something. And the only reason I know it's AI is because it blatantly, that sea monster doesn't exist. They'll show me some big sea monster that's next to a ship as a reason not to do things. And I go, that's not real because the monster's not real. But it looks so convincing. We're all going to be replaced and we're not going to be needed very soon if we keep, we're training it to replace us. That's my quick thought on AI. So that's everything that's come in. So let's get into why I love Shadowdark, and then at the end of it, I'm going to give you the 4 things that I dislike and kind of how I deal with it. But Shadowdark it's going to be interesting for me when I do my top 10 in January of my top 10 all-time games. So I do a top 10 games that I've played over the year, and then top 10 of all times. And my top games always is a mix of the sort of 3 games: Werewolf the Apocalypse, Call of Cthulhu, 7th edition, and Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. They're always there right at the top. And Shadowdark wasn't even in my top 10 at all last year, because I didn't really pick it up till, I think it was about November. So I've kind of doing this as it's almost like a 1 year tribute of 1 year of playing in Shadowdark. So let's kind of see why it has just hit so hard with me as a game, because it's the one that I play an awful lot of. But yeah, so I'm gonna give you the reasons. I said then just give you the 4 things that I don't like, because, as you know, my friend Robin at Cozy RPG says, he always talks about the perfect role playing game. You know how it just doesn't exist, and certain games come close, but you can see why other people don't like little bits of it. You know, it's like Warhammer Fantasy Roleplay. I love it. I would never play it live. I'll always play it through a PTT because of all the heavy lifting and the degrees of success. It's just I want my dice rolling to be instant, and then the result is completely you can see it. But so let's just run down then my top 10 reasons. The first one is I've got that gritty old school feel, because as much as it is not technically an old school game, it really feels like the early discoveries I had of role playing. You know, where you do generally get tension in dungeons. You know, torchlights matter. They generally feel dangerous because dark vision. Not everything has, well, nothing from the players have dark vision. And that is, I think, an absolute stroke of genius to give everything dark horrible feelings, and that you do just need to go and take your time, be careful, because one thing I took out is I was going to put it's deadly at low levels, because but that is one of the beauties of it, is the fact that it is a deadly game. I remember talking to my group about this, and they were like, I don't really like games where you can possibly die. And then they played Shadowdark, and they were like, okay, I get it. Everyone I know that's played this, they go into it going, I don't think I'm going to enjoy this. And you can just see that smile on their face as they're actually having fun. But so it brings on to number 2, is one of the reasons it's so fun is because the rules are so simple. You've got 6 attributes, and you are just rolling normally against whatever DC it may be, 10, 13, depending on what the games master is going to set, what the DC is going to be. But that is the game in a nutshell. There's no skills to learn. There's nothing else. You're going to have a few little bits of talents and stuff, but it just then makes it incredibly accessible for experienced players to enjoy. But more importantly, new players can come in, pick it up, and learn it very quickly. But more important than that, one thing the world needs, and we hear a lot about this when it comes to 5th edition, is 5th edition is screaming out for dungeon masters. People don't want to run it. And that's become a thing in the hobby, and not everyone wants to be a games master or dungeon master, because they've got to learn rules, they've got to learn adventures and things like that. And Shadowdark just makes it nice and easy. It's only about 6 or 7 pages of rules in essence. It's spread out a little bit more across the book, but there's not a lot. And included in that, it takes probably what I think is the groundbreaking thing that 5th edition did, and I don't know whether they were the first company to do this or not, but advantage and disadvantage. Getting to roll, if you can find something favourable, you get to roll 2d20 and pick the higher, you've got more chances of succeeding. Everyone loves rolling multiple 2d, multiples of 2d20s, not multiples of 2d20s, but you get what I mean, 2d20s. And you hate it when the games master goes, yeah, you can do that, disadvantage, and you're like, already feel like this is difficult. Succeeding on a d20 is already hard, taking that extra d20. So as a player, you're going to try and work your way to try and get advantage all the time, which brings me on to 3, which is creative play. What I mean by that is the players become creative. If you can work your background or a piece of equipment or working together to achieve a goal, then a lot of the times the games master will allow you to turn that roll into an advantage roll. 2d20. Again, going back to what we were just saying about simple mechanics. And everyone loves it. Everyone loves. As soon as you, as a games master, you go, yeah, you can do that at advantage. Or if they ask because they've managed to tailor their sailing background because they need to climb a cliff and they've managed to actually get some rope up, and so they go actually, because I was always climbing rigging on the ship. I want to be able to, can I do it at advantage? And you go, do you know what? I'll let you do that. You've convinced me. And the smile comes in, and then they roll. And, one dice would have failed, the second dice would have passed, it did pass, and they're over the moon because they've achieved. They don't know whether they would have failed or not. Obviously, on roll 20, you can determine normally which is the first of the die, so you can actually see the benefit of advantage. But if you're rolling physically, you can't, but you're going to feel the benefit of the advantage, and everyone loves that. And say it just allows players to come together. But also, you don't always need to be rolling, because if they can be creative enough, don't make them roll. It's in the rules. Don't make them roll. Let them just succeed. I know players like rolling dice more often, though. It is a weird thing in this hobby, isn't it? How people love to roll. And, sometimes people just, I want to make an observation check, and they'll just roll and go, I haven't asked you to roll yet. What are you doing? Pick your dice up. Because if they roll a 20, they're going to want to keep it. If they roll a 1, they're just going to pick it up anyway. They go, oh, no, you didn't call for the roll. Because, some players cheat. We know who you are. You know who you are. Okay, so my number 4, crawl rounds. And Alien does this. The Dagger Heart does this as well. And what you're doing at the start of sessions is you're going to roll initiative outside of combat, and you go into what's called crawler rounds in here, which means everybody gets to do something before you go on to the next round. So this is when you're doing your basic investigation of a dungeon. And it's amazing because what it does is it forces the quieter, shyer members of the group to step up because they have to describe what they're doing. But it also takes away the agency from, those sort of the players in the groups that like to take control over other situations. I'm going to go in look in that corner and make an investigation. And they'll always roll, go, yeah, I'm looking there too. Shadowdark gets rid of all that, because you can make people look for stuff or not look. If they are specifically looking in a corner and that's where the trap, that's where the secret door is, you just let them succeed. It often calls out, but that crawl around is brilliant because you get to see the engagement from the quieter members of the group, and that's the most important thing. Everyone should be having fun, everyone should be joining in and collaborating, because that's the whole point of role playing. And Kelsey has created this situation that it's in the rules that until everyone has done something, you don't go on to the next round. And you can do rounds in minutes, hours, days, whatever it may be. So even when you're hex crawling across the crawler rounds, everyone is going to be doing something. And you, as a games master, it's incumbent on you to ask everyone and make sure that they come back with what they're doing over that period of time as well. And that's a skill that you should take into every other game. Whether the game wants it or not, it's very important that you talk to every player and find out what everyone's doing on every single round. Okay, number 5, torch timers. I've got some little bit of negative on that torch timers to come up, but torch timers, real-time torch timing was a stroke of genius, because it's something I've never seen before. But it encourages the players to stop dicking around in between turns, because they physically got an hour till their torch runs out. And that's not an hour of, game time. It's an hour of real time. So if they want to go to the toilet or order a pizza or pick up the phone and do other things in between, or take 10 minutes deciding what they're doing on their turn, you do see situations where other players are trying to get them to hurry up and speed up and make a decision, because we're running out of time. We are in the middle of this dungeon. It's taken us 2 hours to get here. We only have 3 torches left and we're still not at the end of the dungeon, and you're taking 10 minutes deciding on what you want to do. And then, when the players are just backwards and forwards, a lot of that goes out the window, because they've got a finite amount of resources going in there. So they've got to move quickly, but safely and effectively as a group. as well. But also, because of the way the torch timers works, you can split up. Obviously you shouldn't. We always say you shouldn't split a party, but I think Shadowdark does kind of sometimes encourage splitting up because of the way torch timers works. So you get that situation where people kind of split out a little bit and separate out, and open up an extra torch to try and get through a dungeon quicker because resources are running out. So yeah, it's a really good thing. And then once that hour comes up and you go into darkness, all hell breaks loose, because players whoever's turn it is next, if they haven't got a torch, they're doing everything at disadvantage. There's a very good chance the games masters, the dungeon becomes risky, then more chance of a random encounter. It's just such a brilliant, fun mechanic, because years of playing in dungeons on other systems where everyone can see in the dark is boring. Very, very boring once you go back to playing where the darkness alone is then. You think about walking down the street. We walk down the street in the middle of the day, or go into a field. I live around a lot of greenness. Go into the middle of a field, walk around the day. Absolutely fine. Stick someone in the field, midnight, clouds, so there's no moonlight, nothing around, in the pitch black. Everything is terrifying. Every noise, every footstep, every crick, every break of a twig, whatever it may be, every animal sound you hear, your brain plays tricks on you. And that Kelsey has done perfectly with this. Okay, number 6, flexible play. Now, this sort of leans back onto the ease of the rules and stuff. But what I mean by it, from my point of view, is the fact that Shadowdark is one of the first games that I've seen that is perfect as a one-shot, perfect as a campaign. Because there are other games that, Mortborg, for example, and things like that, work really great as one-shots. And there are a few of the Borgs now that we can do campaign settings in, which is good to see. But you do feel more Shadowdark is set up for campaign play out of the book, as opposed to you're going to need some additional rules that come alongside the sort of board games and things like that. And, from a one-shot point of view, I can take this to a game, and the book itself is A5. I now much prefer A5 books to A4. I'd rather replace everything I've got behind me with A5 books, because I can get more things, but they're easier to carry. They're, I don't know what it is. The layouts are easier. They're just nicer for me to read. Obviously, it does add to the page count, because you get less words on a page, so they do look a little bit thicker. But it's completely adaptable whether we go into campaigns or one-shots. We're playing in that Drascara. That was a one shot, and then we've just adapted it into a campaign setting. I know, with different characters, but it's just so flexible as a system that, and if you are going to do a one shot, how long does a character take? Ignoring equipment. We'll come on to equipment. It's going to take you 3 minutes, maybe soon, maybe quicker, maybe slower. Obviously, equipment and encumbrance is going to take the time. That's really where it sort of slows down. But like any game, sorting out equipment. Well, actually, this game, sorting out equipment, means an awful lot more. But yeah, completely and utterly adaptable, which is why I like it. 7 is Risky Magic. Now, I've been playing games of, you play old school dungeon. I've been reading Castles and Crusades, which goes back to traditional spell slots. Even at sort of 0 level, you're only going to get a certain amount of spells a day. And this does spells differently, because the spells they're big. Some of them feel broken. Some of them are incredibly powerful. And you can cast as many spells as you want all day, every day, forever. All you got to do is pass your skill check, which isn't always going to be easy. And obviously, if you then roll a 1, it's going to miscast and something really bad's going to happen, which is cool, because random tables and the miscast tables get more powerful and more deadly, equal to, the tier of the character and the spell. So that's going to get worse and worse, which, again, such a brilliant mechanic. And you can just keep casting spells, and if you're fortunate enough to gain some talents where you can cast spells on advantage, you can sometimes then make sure your favourite spell's more chance of going ahead. But yeah, so it's such a nice, easy mechanic for the players to follow. 8 is the monster stats. Now, I've been running 5e for years. I ran Pathfinder, the revised edition, for nowhere near as long as I should have done. I had to actually stop it mid-campaign because it drove me bonkers trying to run stat blocks. And Shadowdark goes, here you go. I know I sort of grumbled a little bit about the layout, but in essence, everything you've got in there in like 3 or 4 lines. You've got 3 or 4 lines of descriptor, then all the little stat blocks in there. And even the bigger sort of level 10 to 20 to 30 level creatures, they only normally going to have 4 or 5 different powers as well. You know, they're not going to have a layer action, legendary action, a action, reaction, a half action, 3 action slots, and they, you know, this ability is going to take 2 different slots. This one's going to take 1. This is going to take all 3. And you don't have to think as hard as a games master. And that is really important if you're going to be spending, and you want to make a dungeon more interesting, because if you're running it through 5e or any of the other systems like Pathfinder and stuff, you're either going to have an awful lot of repetitive creatures because you don't want to learn a lot of stat blocks, or combat is going to be very slow and dragged out for quite a while you're making sure that you take on board all of the abilities and, say, the layer actions and things that they can do to stop it just being hit, you hit, I hit, roll, hit. You know, it's also, and this again falls back to some of the earlier points, combat, because the stat blocks are quick and relatively small, they're quick. You know, I've been in games that are 2-3 hour sessions, and you've had 4, 5, maybe 6 combats during that session. I recently played 5e again, and we did a full 3-hour session. We only had 2 combats during the whole thing. It's a different beast. You know, this is, people love 5e, and I'm not knocking. This isn't a knock on 5e, because that's what people like. If that's what you like, play what you enjoy. But Shadowdark allows, with the streamlined stuff, to get through those combats an awful lot quicker as well. Okay, 9 is encumbrance. I have maybe I'm a bad games master, but I've never really cared about encumbrance, because, you know, you're just going to get yourself a bag of holding or whatever it may be, or you just don't think about it or worry about it, because, again, maybe I'm a bad games master, but Shadowdark encourages you. Well, it's part of it, but it makes it streamlined and quick with slots. You know, everyone's got 10 slots. You might have a few more if you're a little bit stronger, or if you're a fighter, you might have a bonus. You know, so you can carry a few things, and each of your weapon might take up 1 or 2 slots. Your armor might take 3 or 4, but your torches are going to have to take up slots. Your food, your rations, that's slots too. We're going to rope. Yep, we're going to need rope. That's going to be slots, right? I've only got strength 8, so I've only got 10 slots. I'm out of hold, and you all sit and work it all out. And, you know, you can get multiple torches into slots, which is slightly more beneficial. And then you get into your first dungeon, and then you go and find a chest with lots and lots of gold in, that's going to take up 5 slots, and no one's got 5 slots. So, okay, well, we're going to leave the chest then. Or what are you dumping? Armor, torches, food, because, you know, you want that money, you want that gold. But you might want to eat. Gold's not going to buy you any food in a dungeon, but it'll get you a lot when you're out. So you're going to, it's working out that wonderful balancing point on where you do. So always include encumbrance. It's again, spot genius on behalf of Kelsey for how she's done the encumbrance rules. They are absolutely easy, simple, but can be deadly, because when players choose poorly, it's like the end of that Mummy film, where I can't remember the name of that greedy character, where he finally gets all the gold in the world, you know, and then he just dies, because he's died the wealthiest man ever, but he's still dead. He hasn't got a chance to spend it or do anything with it. Shadowdark will do that to the players. Not necessarily kill them, but you get my point. The final one, and this I think is the reason for it growing so fast, is the strong support for third-party content. And the open gaming license is easy. It's easy to understand. It's accessible. Everyone can find it. And more importantly, if you join Chaos's Discord, the Arcane Library's Discord, or their websites, and all the there are other third-party websites, they're always promoting all the other stuff in there. Kelsey doesn't come back and go, I want 10% of everything that you make. Thank you very much. Like, I'm not saying other games companies do it. They may or may not have threatened it. That it's and I've heard stories where she's actually hired solicitors, lawyers, as you call them in America, to help protect other people, off air in interviews and stuff after the interviews have closed. I've talked to creators that Kelsey's got in contact with and threatened action against other people coming for that. Absolutely wonderful that she spends her time doing that. She talks to other creators, she goes to conventions, she makes herself accessible and fully supports. It's like the Dark Space Kickstarter that I'm on now. She's out promoting that. She's happy to be front and center. She's talking about it and things, helping to open up those stretch goals. And you don't see that from many other creators. Well, in fairness, I don't think I've ever seen that from any other creator, actual writer of a book going out all the time promoting other people's stuff. Bearing in mind, she's not making anything for it. She's doing it because she loves the third-party content and loves seeing other people creating stuff for it. So those are my 10 reasons. Let me know down in the comments below if I've missed anything out and why the reasons that you're coming back to it. But I just want to sort of end then with the 4. This is the reason why it's not a perfect game for me. And again, this is not meant to besmirch anything to do with Shadowdark. These are just personal things. Because number 1 is gaining levels. More importantly, gaining even levels. If you're not a magic user and you go from level 1 to level 2, level 3 to level 4, it's the most boring level I've ever seen, because you get some hit points and sometimes get one hit point a whole level, and you roll a 1 on that d10 d8 whatever it may be, 1 hit point, no talent roll, no extra ability, and I don't like it. I honestly don't like it because I don't play enough campaigns. So maybe it's offset by once you do go to all of those odd levels. I say odd as in the number, not odd levels, but you know what I mean. When you get into those, because they're really exciting. They're really exciting. So when I solo, because I play more solo for Shadowdark now than actual games, I cheat a little, and I'm not saying we do this in open play, but I'm happy to have the discussion in the comments. I quite like letting my characters have another talent every level, because I quite like it. Because I don't think, because when I solo, I tend to only run 2 characters. I don't do a full 4, because I know it's not that complicated. It is in my head trying to run it. I like genuine. It's why I like. Is it the One Ring, where you just play one beefy character for the One Ring, as opposed to a party. My brain can't cope with 4 different characters running around. I watch lots of people play these on role-playing sessions and stuff and things on YouTube, and I don't know how you do it. I don't know how you generally remember. I'm like priest fighter or priest mage, something along those lines. But yeah, that's I don't even levels. Take number 2. 3d6 down the line and only 4 classes in the core rulebook. Now, I'm fully aware there are thousands of classes and classes that are free, because I've linked so many things over videos on where you can find additional classes, different ancestries and things like that. But the core rulebook doesn't give a lot of options. And 3d6 down the line is brutal, because all we do in essence, I know if they don't all, if you haven't got at least 1 stat over 13, you can re-roll. And a couple of things happen to me is you'll get 1 stat of 14 and everything at 6, which means you're going to die, especially if I'm only running 2 characters. So I end up rolling another character, and then I'll roll a whole new character, and I'll keep going until I've got a couple of stats over. And the worst thing is if you go, I want to be a fighter, I really want to be a fighter, and then you do your first roll, and you go, I've got 6 in strength. I'll just roll another lot of stat blocks then. So you then roll an 8. He's still not going to be a fighter, is he? So in essence, we all just cheat. roll them all, allow one switch. That's the easiest way. I'm not a massive fan of 4d6 remove the lower, because it does make you for a slightly more heroic feel to it, and this isn't that. This is not a heroic game. This is a game that is born out of brutality and the worry and concerns about death every single time. So yeah, that's the way I do it. I always allow myself and my players one switch over. That's it. Technically it's obviously two attribute moves, but yeah, let me know what you think of that. The priest class and penance, don't like it. I do not like. I don't know why the priest has to be disadvantaged more than the mage, because if the mage cast is a 1 on a roll, get your miscast, and then that's it. The priest doesn't get to do that spell ever again until he finds some way of, appeasing his god, which I think is a little bit severe, because the wizard gets his spells back tomorrow. The priest doesn't until he achieves that. So I have a little bit of a wiggle room on that one. I've never done this in a campaign, because I've never actually ran a full campaign. I've only ever ran one shot. So how I do this myself, and people probably might hate this, you see what's coming, is if I can't find a way of doing that penance during that day, I pray at night, and in the morning my god's given me the priest spell back. So I kind of, because I running 2 characters means I need that priest casting my healing spell. Without it, I'm dead. And I think if you did this to a normal party, again, let me know in the comments below, I think a normal party would really struggle if you take that out and it's gone for days at end, because, it's brutal. And we, as much as TPKs can be good, if that's the right thing to say, and interesting, if you then allow other players to, the players to then create other players. But, if you get to 9th level and the priest loses all its healing ability, and then everyone dies because they couldn't sort it out. I don't know. It's just not me. It seems overly harsh in my world. My last one, I said this was going to come back, is torch timers. I'm not a massive fan of torch timers because of players. Now, I'm quite happy to run torch timers, and I do run torch timers, but I've been experimenting with on one-shots, because what I think one of the biggest problems with torch timers, and I'm not wearing a watch typically at the time of recording, I take it off to record because I keep banging it on the desk. So is you've got an hour or half an hour, so the players will look at their phone or their watch and make a mental note, and they'll metagame when the torch is going to run out. I don't like that. Don't like it. So what I do, because I'm a bit of a git, is I let the players know that I'm going to be using torch timers modified by a D20. So I start the torch timer, got an hour. Just before I start it, I'll roll a D20. If it's a 1, I'll take off 10 minutes. If it's 20, I'll add 9 minutes. And anywhere in between, I'm adding anywhere between 10 to minus in 9 minutes off the torch timer. So I've got like this 20-minute window of they don't know exactly when it's going to run out. So it might go for more than an hour, might go for slightly less than an hour. It stops those gits looking at their phones, knowing exactly when it's going to run out. In essence, sometimes though, combats take over and people have kept an eye on the torch, and then it's their turn and they've got to do a combat knowing the torch is going to run out. So what Kelsey's got in essence is good, but I just like that little bit of flexibility. I kind of want to wiggle that timer from being such a precise tool to either catch the players out, or more often than not, it's going to give them a few extra minutes either way, because an hour's too precise for me. But that's it. That is my video. That is why I love Shadowdark and why I think everyone should be playing it. That's the reason I shout about it so often, as well as, lots of... I'm not exclusively into Shadowdark, because there's lots of other things I play. There's lots of other games I love, and I love everything about this hobby. Well, most games. There are a few games I don't like, but I don't talk about them because I don't want to sit and go on camera and just moan about someone else's work. It's quite rude, You know, if someone came to your office and went, you know what, I think you've done really bad all day. And I go, are you my boss? No, well, then keep your opinions to yourself. You know, I've written the best that I can with the ability that I have. And by all means, give critical feedback, but just to sit and turn a camera on and just moan at someone's stuff that's not the person I am. So I try to be more positive and say, you know, I will find fault in systems, but that isn't, even those 4 criticisms of Shadowdark, that's not me finding fault in Kelsey's work. That's me finding something that I personally don't enjoy. You know, so yeah, let me down comment below if there's things that you dislike. You know, I do not want this to be, though, a full-on bitch session about why you don't like something, if that makes sense. As I do, I run teams at work, and like, if you've got a fault, you come to the meeting, have your complaint. However, you need a solution in that meeting, because just anyone can complain, anyone can moan about something. If you don't like something, explain what's wrong, and you know, talk to everyone about how you would improve it. That is a far more beneficial way for everyone to criticize something. So encourage you to do the same down in the video description. If you've enjoyed this video, please like, share, subscribe to the channel. Come join my Discord, join my Patreon. I don't know whether there'll be a video next week, because I'm going to be 51 years old. 51. It's just rolling on, isn't it? You know, when you go out and you see people and they all look like children, and then it's not. It's just the fact that I'm old now. So yeah, thank you for watching, and I'll see you soon. Cheers.